Yo, what up, good people? It's Coach Renz for Deconstructing Christianity. We are here live tonight on our Monday show. Gonna talk about Paul. If you find me for the first time, we deconstruct Christianity on this show, and we are going to begin to reconstruct your understanding of life and how it works. But skip to the 5 minute mark, 5, 6, 7 minute mark. If you're finding me for the first time, that's when we get started. We're gonna be talking about Paul. Is he a myth or agent of Rome? That is going to be a discussion. What up, Wrath and Randall and Tim already on here? I forgot to read something before we got started. Shit. I completely forgot. There you go. This is a quick read though. Got to be more careful. I completely forgot. But I just to read this shit. Okay. I really didn't need to read it because it's exactly what I thought it was. So I'm good to go. But welcome. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Everybody who's supposed to channel through being subscription holders, members, thank you for that. Everybody who donate to the cause. My wife's birthday is coming up. Wait a minute, hold on. hold on. Everywhere. Oh shit, I can't do it on this one. I do it on the next one. All right, got some more members here. Chris, thank you for being a member. Good to see you, Christopher. Okay, so you finally saw Sinners. Yeah, it was a great movie. Thank you. I thought the review was on spot. If you notice anything I didn't talk about, let me know. Oh yeah. Matter of fact, let me put Angelina's Cash App up here for those who want to birthday my baby. I can't put it on my name. I don't think. Can I change that? I don't know if I can change that on here already. Yeah, there go. I go Angelina's Cash App for anybody who want to say happy birthday, want to give a birthday gift to my wonderful bride who allows for me to be able to do this 3 nights a week. If you didn't see, I posted also, and I'll talk about it a little bit later on in more detail. I'll be doing a seminar that I normally do, been doing for years, called Financially on Fire. And that webinar is going to go on June 1st at 12 noon Central Standard Time. So just go to Eventbrite, or actually, let me get the link. Let me get the link for it. So if you are struggling, if you're tired of struggling with your finances and your credit, then I would implore you to sign up for this webinar that I'll be conducting on June 1st. You'll also get a copy of my Financial Alchemy DIY booklet that was composed to help you build your credit. A lot of things that's in that, some of the things in that booklet we're going to talk about on that night, on that afternoon. There's a lot more in there that we won't talk about. But if you are tired of your finances being a point of stress, your money, your budget being a point of stress, you got more burn going every month than you got intake, that is a seminar you should be a part of, a webinar you should be a part of. If you hear any yelling and screaming in the background, that is because my wife is watching her Boston Celtics try to come out of this 2-1 deficit that they're in right now. But we'll see how that goes. But we are going to have a great conversation here. I expect us to have a great conversation. So it's time to light the cigar so we can get started on our conversation for tonight. She already down there yelling, what the hell? She might have been yelling what the hell because of what Raph just put up there, because she is watching the show at the same time that she's watching her game. So Raph, if you're starting fighting words, well, Tim, the Financially on Fire seminar is only $10. I think it'll be $10 well spent for you to have some walk around money. You got to take some time to invest in yourself. Randall, what you talking about? I was so happy that he let that damn hairstyle go. I like how they throw in the comments. They're making the comments bigger with showing the person's little thing and making the comments easier to read. This is a new thing that they're doing on StreamYard. That's pretty cool. But yes, and when he had chipped that tooth last year, nah, don't try to clean it up now, Raph. She probably gonna talk some trash to you later on. All right, let's get the stogie going. Ooh, I'm low on gas. So Angelina, when there's a commercial break, if you can bring my fuel up here, I appreciate it. All right, so I am smoking one of the La Angelinas. All you gotta do is contact me on my email. They get all the bullshit out there first. So I just posted my email address. If you're interested in getting your hands on some La Angelina hand-rolled cigars by my wife, contact me on my email. If you're interested in doing some coaching, contact me on that same email. Either way is going to be great. Now, I got coffee, and I still got some more coffee in here. Got plenty of coffee. Why is she down there? So my cigars, her cigars are $8 if you buy one individual cigar, less than 4. I wanted the fuel tank. No, so if you get a break, the fuel tank, that way I can reload them. Because I already got like 6 torches up here. Oh, geez. Sorry. So they are $8 in if you buy 1, 2, 3, or 4, but $5. You buy 5 of them, then they're $7.50 per, plus about $10 of shipping. So that's how much the cigars are. Nice floral, coffee notes, cocoa notes. She gonna see what you said, Randall, by Ant-Man coming. She watches on YouTube while we're up here, and she watches the game. So tonight's conversation. So we got everything out of the way. Thank everybody for their support. Yep, did that. Financial on Fire seminar coming up, webinar coming up, coaching. Contact me on that email address. Cigars, contact me on that email address. Yep, that's about it. So tonight. We are going. You could have waited. So tonight we are going to be talking. Tonight we're going to have a discussion about Paul, and a case can be made for Paul to be a literary creation, which will make him a myth. Oh, this is about empty. But also, a case can be made for Paul being an agent of Rome. So we're going to handle this by looking at some of the writings, looking at just a few of the writings of Paul, but also at the same time, we're going to take a look at a comparison, a thought process of what the Romans' idea was, what they was looking to accomplish with their creation of Christianity, and how an idea of a person named Paul or an actual agent named Paul would have been very instrumental in creating that situation. So those are the things we're going to talk about and discuss tonight. Thank you for letting me fill up my torches real quick. So right off the bat, question: do you think Paul mythological, as a literary character, or was Paul an agent of Rome? Which one of those do you think Paul might have been? I'll give y'all a minute to respond to that. I know before we got started, before I even turned the thing on, Rathat wrote that it's possible that Paul could be both a literary character created in order to be an agent of Rome, Dwayne says he's a myth. A. Smith of Rome believe that the author of Acts were Roman apologists, sympathizers. I can get down with that. ACK7 says a myth. Volta says a question mark. I got some cuneiform writing up there. So I don't know. Did you guys watch? I don't know if you watched the video that I did earlier today, about 2 hours ago, where I was discussing the fact that we're going to have this conversation tonight. And when I was having that conversation, one of the things that I was saying, I talked about the fact of how Paul and Jesus, the comments that's attributed to Jesus, that there are differences in those comments. Right? Of course, Patel thinks Paul was a literal character. Not surprised by that one. Created by the Roman councils. So it is often remarked by many Christians and Christian scholars and apologists that there are two different types of Christianity. One being the Jesus of the Gospels type of Christianity, and then there's the other, which is the Paulinian Christianity. One of the reasons why there is that separation is the fact that some of the sayings taught by Paul differ from the teachings of Jesus. Right? For instance, the teachings that are attributed to the Jesus character are the fact that he came not to take one tittle from the law, and that you must believe in him as a son of God, but also understand that you are to follow the laws and all these sorts of things as well. Let me bring this down until I'm ready for it. And you're also supposed to follow the law. Well, Paul would indicate that all you have to do is be a believer, that you don't have to worry about following the law. You don't have to act like, do the Jewish holidays or follow the commandments to a certain degree, that you don't have to do any of those things, just believe in Jesus. And that belief in Jesus will make you into a new creature, a better person, and so on and so forth. And that this God's mentality will be written on your hearts, and that he picked up from Deuteronomy. Well, it's those types of disagreements that differentiate between Paulinian style Christianity and Christianity. Right? And I talked about on that video how this was inspired by a dream that I had last night. I watched your video, I think, because Saul, aka Paul, had a better vehicle to get the message across than Peter, because he was with Europeans. Right, Paul was more with the Europeans, more with the Roman Empire, whereas Peter supposedly was more centered around the Jewish community. And if you read the secret writings of Peter, though, well, the Gospel according to Peter, I think there's the secret writings of Peter, Gospel according to Peter, and might be another one according to Peter. Peter, in those Gospels, he did spend some time in Rome performing magic tricks and having a wizard battle, but those have been deemed to be not authoritative. Now, so I had this dream last night, and that'll be a good place to start this off. So I had this dream, and in the dream, there was a person standing on top of a mountain. And that mountain was a mountain of Judaism. Okay. And the people split. One of the persons became Peter, the other person became Paul. Maybe the solid creature was Jesus in this dream, but they split and became Peter and Paul. Well, Peter climbed this tree, big old, big evergreen pine tree looking thing. It was a big pine tree. He climbed this big pine tree. And from that big pine tree, he was trying to change the mountain. You know, he wanted the whole mountain to be destroyed and changed over completely. The Paul character, and their names was Peter and Paul in the dream. The Paul character jumped on a motorcycle. It's my dream, so of course he jumped on a motorcycle. Jumped on a motorcycle and zigzagged down the mountain road, right? And he zigzagged, and the zigzagging was interesting because it was hard cornered zigzagging down the mountain at breakneck speeds, and he ended up getting to the bottom of the mountain in the valley, a bunch of people, whereas Peter, it was on top of this big ass pine tree, and the pine tree toppled over, and Peter came crashing down the mountain, and he died at the bottom of the mountain. And I was seeing this through the viewpoint of each individual person. And so Peter dies, but Paul survives, and when he survives, the Judaic mountain is still there, damaged, but still there, and he navigated down this road, navigating Judaism, but got to the valley and was welcomed by a throng of other people, different people. So in my interpretation of that dream, Peter was trying to convert Judaism, failed and died, whereas Paul navigated down through Judaism and then instituted a new form of Judaism called Christianity. And so as I meditated over that dream for about a good hour or two, I started to think about, and thinking about how these two characters are portrayed in the Bible. Peter was the one who was, according to this story, trying and staying in with the Jewish people, trying to convert them over to Christianity. And although there was some success, for the most part, he's a minor character in the Bible. There are no direct writings attributed to him. It is said that Matthew and Mark may have been students of Peter, and that they were, and the Matthew and the Mark version of the Gospels is very much a Jewish-led version. It is speaking to the Jewish people. Then Paul, who seemingly comes out of nowhere, was a Sadducee of Sadducees, a Pharisee. He was a Pharisee of Pharisees, an adept for his age, according to the story. And he taught a little different version of Christianity. a more Romanized, a more Greek version of Christianity. And it's not unheard of. It's not crazy to think that there were Hellenistic Jews, which means that they were Romanized. Whether we're talking about Josephus, whether we're talking about Herod, uh, Philo of Alexander, there were many Hebrews or Jews who were Hellenized. And so they were in favor of the Roman government, especially people like Philo, who was one of the wealthiest persons in Alexandria, Egypt. He was the main tax collector, was one of the wealthiest men in the Roman Empire. So of course he doesn't want to, he want to keep his fellow Hebrews in line. Josephus becomes the scribe of Titus, and then is invited to become a member of the uh, Piso-Flavian family. And of course, it is the Piso-Flavians who developed this whole story of Jesus in the first place. I guess I will stand on that rock, that foundation. So, since the Jesus character is a made-up character, a literary character, it would stand to reason that it is possible that the Paul character could just as well have been made up to create a version of Christianity, a version of Judaism that would be more passive, that would say that would lean towards being a good citizen of Rome, would lean to sayings like, obey your earthly masters, slaves obey your earthly masters as you would Jesus, and would say things like, in Christ there is no free or bond, no male or female. But that whole statement is about you being good, happy with your status, and not worrying about it. Telling, was it Onesimus, that he should remain a good slave, or Onesimus be a good master. I forgot if Onesimus was a slave master or the slave himself. So there is certainly a lot of Roman leaning in the writings of Paul. Now, Paul is not without his own contradictions. People will point out that Paul had some women who were apostles, who were deaconesses and things of that nature. But as Isaac also points out, Paul was also the one that is attributed to telling women that they should keep silent within the churches. They shouldn't have any authority over men. But yet you got some apostle and some deacon women. Doesn't work, right? So there are some contradictions within that. Now, so when we think about this, when we think about this, Paul definitely seems to go a route that would be favorable to the Romans. Paul definitely says some things that were not that are not endearing towards this God. Like, for instance, this is why I brought this one up, was Paul says that if Paul says that it is not from God, but it is his own opinion, then how come the Bible is 100% the word of God? Because in Corinthians, is one of the times when in Corinthians 1:7-25, he openly admits that what he is given is his opinion. So this is not directly God. Now, if you don't remember that one, I'll read it real quick. He said in 25, now concerning the unmarried, I have no command of the Lord, but I give my opinion as one who by the Lord's mercy is trustworthy. I think that, and the trustworthiness is not the God trust him, that the people can trust him. He said, I think that in the view of the present distress, it is well for a person to remain as he is. Are you bound to a wife? Do not seek to be free. Are you free of a wife? Do not seek to be married. But if you marry, you do not sin, and if a girl marries, she does not sin. Yet those who marry will have worldly troubles, and I will spare you from that. So this is the whole thing about, unless you are burning with lust to have sex, you should marry. But if not, remain unmarried, because Paul had the expectation, as you read through the rest of that part of Corinthians, that Jesus was supposed to return before Paul dies, because Jesus supposedly said that he would return during before this generation passes, that there were those who were alive at that time frame who would still be there when Jesus returned. Of course, there is no return of Jesus during that time frame or any other time frame. So Paul, that's a whole nother argument of how man's influence, man's own opinion is a part of the understanding of this Bible, the reading of this Bible. Oh, but what is the biggest thing? What is one of the things that we can look at and see how there are some literary evident things that are put into the Paul story and the Jesus story? And when we look at the Paul story, in every writing that's attributed to Paul, nowhere does Paul talk about how he met Jesus. In Galatians and other part of Corinthians, does he talk about the fact that he saw Jesus, he met Jesus, but did he say he met him in a dream? Did he have a vision of Jesus? Did he appear to him in real life? You get none of that from Paul himself if he was the actual person writing this. Now, I don't know about y'all, but if I was writing these epistles and I'm writing all these letters and whatnot, I would probably mention, or in my preachings, talk about the fact that I was on this road to Damascus and I was on my way to persecute some more Christians. But you know what? Jesus appeared to me. He then blinded me, and then I was ushered to another man's house, and the scales came off after a while, and I was converted over to Christianity. Now, if you're Paul, and if you're like me, you grew up thinking Paul wrote that, right? Matter of fact, how many of y'all grew up, at least, and maybe you realized it later, but or even still, how many of y'all thought that Paul wrote and told his story about what happened on the road to Damascus? I'm really curious, because even when I read the Bible over and over again, it kept escaping me the fact that I kept on missing the fact. I kept thinking Paul told his story, told his own story. Although I'm not going to get into this discussion, 20% of the Israelites didn't leave. According to the story, all of them left. And that's according to the story. But in reality, there were none. None of them left, because it's a made-up story. Didn't I already go over that? Didn't I go back and find that verse in the Bible where I showed you that it said that they all left? It said all. It didn't say 20%. It said all. That's revisionist history, Deuteronomy. But I'm not getting into that right now. Right. Paul never wrote it. Dwayne was like I was. I thought Paul wrote that. Was never sure he wrote it. All right. Valid. So I was always thinking that Paul wrote it. And the way preachers would preach it, you would think that Paul wrote it. And I think it was like I was in my mid-20s when I came to the realization that Paul never actually wrote that. That was actually something that was written in the book of Acts. And the book of Acts is attributed to the writer of Luke, which is supposed to be Luke. Even though there's a discussion right now that Luke may have been just a copy of the Marcion gospel. But that's a whole nother conversation. But the thing about it is that Luke supposedly wrote Acts, but it's definitely a different writer than Paul that wrote Acts. This story of Paul on the road to Damascus was never written by Paul, never told by Paul. There's nowhere that you can find Paul mentioning the entire event. Like I said, the only thing that the Bible says about Paul is the only thing that's said about that Paul meeting Jesus, he just said he had a vision, that he met him. Well, he didn't say a vision. He just said that he met Jesus. He met the risen Savior. You would think if you're writing that letter, you would say, yes, when I met the risen Savior on the road to Damascus, even if you just said that would validate that Paul said yes to this story. Now we have to understand that if you believe Paul to be an actual literal person, then Paul was dead when Luke was written. About 10 to 20 years after Paul's supposed demise, that is when when Acts was written. So this story about Paul on the road to Damascus is a later addition to the Paul story. So why is Luke writing about Paul's conversion, but Paul never wrote about his own conversion? I mean, if I converted over to Islam, I would tell you my conversion. I wouldn't, if it's for somebody to tell it after I'm dead, that doesn't make any sense. This is what I know he's trying to draw me in, y'all, but the Meneptah Stele talks about how Pharaoh Meneptah went to Canaan and kicked a bunch of people asses who were called themselves Israelites. That doesn't prove that they were in Egypt. What the fuck? Come on, man. Come on, Deuteronomy. You better than that, I hope. That's that bullshit. But now, you know what? I am not getting drawn in right now. We got to do this subject matter. And I'm going to do this subject matter. I am not going to go and do another subject matter. So, not yet. So, we got Paul here, who never mentioned his own conversion. But Luke mentions it. Now, have we ever heard of a story that was similar to that? I want to see if you guys can come up with the story, can identify if there was a story that was not exactly the same, but had similar themes. And if you saw my video earlier, don't cheat and say what it is. But have you ever heard of a story that has a lot of similarities to the Jesus character as well as similarities to the Paul character? And how this story was written at minimum about almost 500 years prior to any mentioning of a guy named Paul. Nice little coffee note, little cocoa. Hassan, Bashir, exactly. Dionysus. Do you know the name of the story? It was an award-winning story, a play for years and years upon years and centuries. It was an award-winning play. This play is still performed today. You can still find places where this play is still performed. It has been a part of different movies, especially French movies. Let's see if anybody knows it. Anybody knows it. What is the play concerning Dionysus that the Paulinian character and some of Jesus' story mimics? Or at least the theme mimics. It's not a direct copy, but made for what they would have been considering modern times. It would have been familiar to the Gentiles. It would have been familiar to the Mediterranean people, period. All the Mediterranean people. It would have been a familiar story to all of them. Y'all taking too long. So if you Take some time. Go read a story called The Bacchae. The Bacchae, which was written by Euripides in around 405 to 405 to 407 BCE, was an award-winning story about a mythical king named Pentheus. Pentheus, and and even for them, they knew he was a mythical king. Let me keep that up for now. Pentheus was one of the kings, a Greek king, and he was horrified and pissed off about the worshippers of the Bacchae, the worshippers of Dionysus. He thought that they were lewd and they was overly sexualized and they were drunkard and intoxicated, because that was part of the Dionysus myth, is that he would get people drunk. That Dionysus turned a river into wine so that the nymphs would become intoxicated and make them easier to, shakalaka boom boom. The myth of Dionysus also goes to the fact that Zeus came and had sex with a woman named Semele, and Semele, said that she was pregnant by Zeus, but her husband was like, hell no. And she was like, no, I am pregnant by Zeus. And people were like, no, you've been hoeing. But then when the child is born, Hera convinces her to do some crazy shit. I forgot what convinced her to do. But then when the baby is born, when Dionysus is born as a half god, half man, half god, half man, he then takes the baby. The baby dies, actually. But then he takes the baby, he plants the baby in his thigh, in the crevice of his thigh, kind of like how Jacob he hurt his inner thigh when he was fighting with God. You see how these themes are similar? And then Dionysus is reborn, so he's resurrected. So there's the resurrection part. We already got the wine part. Now, the later stories of Dionysus turning water into wine, or grapes fermenting within 24 hours, and all these sorts of things, those were later additions to the mythos that was written after John was written. Those were written in the 2nd and 3rd century, so those are written after. So you can't, they could have ascribed those from John, but he did turn a river into some wine before that. Fountains and temples being wine, but as soon as you go out into the daylight, it turns into water. All these different other wine to water stories come later, but Dionysus was a wine god. But Pentheus did not want the people of Greece worshiping Dionysus. So he went about killing anyone who would participate in the Bacchae. And the Bacchae was pretty much a feast drunken orgy in the woods. So this feast drunken orgy was happening in the woods, and Pentheus wanted to disrupt that. Now, the story is a little bit different. Pentheus doesn't go off on a road and is caught off and then meets Dionysus. Dionysus dresses himself up as a human, as a salesperson, a farmer, and he's arrested by people of Pentheus guards, and he's brought to Pentheus, and they have this exchange that's similar to Jesus and Pilate's exchange. Who are you? And Pentheus like, Dionysus is like, don't be going against a mortal versus a god. Don't be doing all that, and you're gonna die. You're gonna FAFO if you keep on. And Pentheus like, nah. Now Pentheus never converts over, but he does stop. He is stopped in his crucifixion of the people who participated in the Bacchae, because Dionysus had him killed. His body is torn apart. His mother gets his head and thinks that it is a lion's head and wants it pinned up to the door. Pentheus was blinded He was blind. Dionysius tells Pentheus that he was blinded, not physically, but he was blinded by his will to overpower the people and run the people. And so there's an idea of being blinded, but it was more of a metaphorical blindness than a physical blindness that you find in the Paulinian story. And his mother is blinded, thinking that it is a head of a lion. She wants to put it over a door, but then she realizes that Shmele realizes that it is her son Pentheus. Wait a minute, not Shmele. Shmele is Dionysus' mother. Whoever Pentheus' mother is finds out that that's her son, and so she's mourning and all this kind of stuff. So, like I said, it's more the themes are similar. So, in the same way that Paul was this Pharisee who was going out and he was killing Christians, Pentheus was going out and killing worshipers of Dionysus. The same way Jesus was a wonder worker, a son of God, a resurrected being, so was Dionysus in similar fashion, just in different ways. The fact that Dionysus was trying to convince him the same way that Jesus was trying to convince Paul. The difference is that Paul, converts over to Christianity. Now, it is not uncommon to find stories like this in the Bible, that the Bible has leaned on other stories, previous stories. The Bible leans on some of his own stories in the Old Testament. In the book of Genesis, you got the story of Lot and Sodom and Gomorrah, right? Where the angels come in, the men want to have sex with him. He offers his daughters. They say no. The men are blinded. They escape the city. In Judges 19, the man comes into a city with his concubine, wants to sleep in the town square, just like the angels wanted to. Some old man, just like Lot, says, hey, no, don't do that because they might essay you. Come stay in his house, just like in Lot's house. This time, instead of Lot offered the daughters, he offered his concubine, and the man offers his daughter. They rape the concubine until she dies. They take the offer, where in the Lot story, they don't take the offer. So it's not uncommon within the Bible itself for them to reimagine an old story. So them reimagining the story of the Bacchae, written by Euripides, it's not a stretch, especially when the Bible already has such stories, when that's already part of their modality. So it is quite possible that Paul was a literary character based off of the Bacchae. Like I said, it's not a direct, it's not exactly the same, but there's enough ideas in there that makes it plagiarism to a certain degree. If you have enough of a, I see Randall just wrote reimagining or plagiarism. If there's enough change in a story, we normally don't call it plagiarism. There's enough change in the story to not call it plagiarism, but it's definitely a reimagining. The same way that all the Disney movies, most of the Disney movies at least, are a reimagining of either Aesop fables or somebody else's fables and stories. Because trust me, if you ever go read Hansel and Gretel or Cinderella, those stories are very different than the originals. So we have a reimagining of this story, is the way I'm gonna call it. And even with the part of Jesus having this confrontation with Pontius Pilate, the same way that Dionysius has his confrontation with Pentheus, a reimagining of the story, elements taken from the Bacchae, which, like I said, for centuries, award-winning, still performed to this day. It's probably one of the longest running shows in history because the story has been told over and over and over and over and over again. Other movies and plays have taken on the themes of that same story. So in that sense, since we see that Paul is different from Jesus, we see that Paul doesn't tell his own story about his road on Damascus. We see that is something that's written by Luke, and Luke is supposed to be, claimed to be written by Luke. And Luke is supposed to be this intelligent person. He would have known about the Bacchae. And so we can see how that Paul could have been a literary character that was created. Now, why would this literary character be created? That's the other question that we have to ask ourselves. So I want you to think about something that we see governments still do to this day, and governments have done throughout history, is the creation of a character or an actual person who is an agent or as someone said earlier, an incel. If I am the Vespasians, and what I'm trying to do is create a passive version of Christianity, a passive version of Judaism, sorry, because of all the revolts that are going on, then there are two ways to do it. Either destroy the story, much like Vespasian destroyed the Druid story, and that's how he conquered the Druids, the people up in Germania and Britain, or you change it. You give it a different narrative. You push it in a different direction, reimagining it, if you will. There are two ways that this could have been done, and this could have been fought on a two front. One front is Peter. That's why I had the dream. One front is Peter. Let's see if we can tear it down from the inside. Let's see if we can have another Hebrew person tear it down by completely trying to change it into something brand new. And or let's see if we can create a new movement of pacifists, utilizing the basis of this story to create this pacifistic story. Because when you read Paul, Paul is, like I said earlier, is very Roman, Greco-Roman, incredibly Greco-Roman story, right? So if you look at Paul from that lens of what the Vespasians were trying to accomplish when they even created the character of Jesus, when they had people like Philo and Josephus writing these new versions, and I honestly think that Paul was either written by Philo or by Josephus, that you would create this character who is going to all these churches and he's telling the people about Christianity. He's sending these letters and creating these churches based on Christianity. And he's telling them that they are to, whatever governor is put over you, that they were put over you by God. So as far as the people of Judea would be concerned, if Rome is their emperor, if Vespasian is their emperor, then God put Vespasian on the throne. If Titus is your emperor, then God put Titus on the throne. No self-respecting Hebrew would have written that. What self-respect? I mean, come on. What self-respecting Hebrew would write that? This, as a black man living in America, that would be like how some people were saying, how people were, you had some black people who were saying that, no, we got a good master here. This is a good house. While they enslave you, while they beat you, while they rape your women, while they breed you. But I would be in support of the establishment that is doing the damage to you. Why would I say that? Right? Why would I be the guy in Django? I never can remember that dude's name. But why would I be that guy in Django? Why would you trust? Would you trust the Django dude who is saying that, oh, y'all should stop fighting. Don't fight. Don't fight. And we've seen a lot of house people. Paul would be a house person. Y'all know I don't use that terminology. Stephen, thank you. Thank you, Dwayne. Paul would be Stephen. You're not saying that. You're a Hebrew. Why would you say that? Why would you tell the Hebrew people that? But what better way you start getting Gentiles, and you got to think about other Romans. It's not just Romans and Jews and Hebrews. No, the Roman Empire consisted of people from all the Mediterranean countries, from all over Europe, from deep into the eastern parts of, well, it would be the western parts of Asia. There's a lot of people who are involved, a lot of different ethnic groups, right? So you got a lot of ethnic groups involved. What better way to convince all these different ethnic groups that they should all be pacifistic towards the Roman government than through a new religious movement. And we're going to call it Christians. And we're going to make them look like people who are going to go up against oppression, but they're going to be fine with their oppression because they're waiting for this magical Messiah to come down and rescue them. Just as presidents and Congress and senators and judges don't really give a damn about your beliefs, they want you to stay in your belief. If it keeps you orderly, I don't care what you believe. The Roman government would have been the same way. Governments have been that way. So, in that regard, either you had a person going around preaching this message, teaching this message, an agent of Rome, or you created a literary character. Now, personally, I think that you, in order to make sure that this happens, you don't just send letters out, but you have a person that goes around to these different areas, that goes to Ephesus, that goes to the Galatians, and goes to the people of the Corinthians, that goes there and establishes these churches and teaches this, and teach this message and convince the people of those different lands that they should be following this Jesus character who pays his taxes. Follow this Jesus character who follows the laws of Rome and does not want to rebel. You send somebody out to do that. Just like we know our government and every other government has sent people out to keep the good little oppressed people happy in their oppression. So not that I think that there was an actual Pharisee named Paul who did all this shit, but that there was a person who was charged by the Roman government to go out and convince the unwashed masses to be happy. And here's the thing, dark flame. Here's the thing about that dark flame. You don't have to use a Roman citizen. Look at what they did with Josephus. Josephus was a Galilean, but when he got captured, he became a scribe. Well, first he was a translator, and he helped the Romans defeat the people of Judea. And then he helped them defeat their story, to try to defeat their story. So if you pay, you know how you say everybody got a price? All you need is a well-spoken person in the Roman government that you can trust, or citizen, or person who's down on their luck but well-spoken, and convince them, hey, you go do this and we're going to pay you a lot of money. We're going to make sure that you got houses, you got everything. We'll even fake your death. And you can live the rest of your life in luxury, knowing that you have done well for Rome. Did Jesus pay his taxes? Did he follow the law? Wasn't he more of an anarchist than me? No. When you look at the stories, when it was time for them to pay their temple tax and everything, he told them, hey, go find some fish, and then in the mouth of that fish, you're going to find some gold coins, and with those gold coins, pay the taxes. You know, give unto Caesar render unto Caesar what is Caesar. He paid taxes, just like everybody else. He didn't violate any of the Roman laws. He did what all of them did. Yes, I do think that he would still be an agent of Rome, even saying that. Now, the letters of Corinth, the Corinthian letters are supposed to be written by Paul. That's what they believe. But yes, because it falls, think about it. if you're living a hard life right now and you're being oppressed and all this sort of thing, and you want to rile up against the government, you ain't got enough money for a dowry to get a wife, or you got a wife, but she don't want to give you no poom poom because y'all struggling and everything, and she's mad, frustrated, you mad and frustrated. But if I tell you, hey, because when you read the whole thing, don't worry about that. Don't worry about it. If you have a wife, yeah, I know you're gonna be worried about worldly things, and that's fine. But you got to keep your eye on Jesus, because Jesus is coming back before I die. So it's an immediate band-aid. Jesus coming back. Don't worry about what the emperor is doing to you. Don't worry about that they overtaxing you. Don't worry about that you're being over-policed. Don't worry about that you're being conscripted into the military. Don't worry about all those things that they taking your land and all this stuff. Jesus is coming back soon. Isn't that what Seeley told Oprah? Sophia, yeah. Isn't that what Seeley told us, Sophia? Don't worry about your husband beating you and you and your husband fighting. Time here on earth is temporary. Heaven lasts forever. Or however she said it. Oh, yeah. One of the things that preachers always preach is that the Corinthians were having an issue. Because notice he didn't say that to the Ephesians, he didn't say that to the Galatians, he didn't say that to nobody else. But the people in Ephesus, as well as the people in Corinth, they were having issues with women in the churches, with women wanting to have authority in the church and be ministers and so on and so forth. That's also why he told them to shut the hell up in church. He told the Ephesians and the Corinthians, yeah, women, shh, and hear all that noise, right? So the marriage thing makes sense for the Corinthians because they were having marital problems up there. They were having women problems up there. So, let me tell you something. This is something that I realized when I was in the military. When I didn't realize this till I was in the military, and I had commanders who always had us studying military history. Oftentimes a country becomes more aggressive towards war when there's not enough women to go around. So when there ain't enough women, men get agitated and they want to fight. They got to take their frustration out on somebody. So let's go get somebody. Look at the Jewish story. In that Judges 19, if you continue reading through 20, 21 and all that kind of stuff, after they decimated those people, the next thing they started doing is, the Benjamites need some more wives. We got to go get them some more wives. So they conquered some people and took their wives, took the young girls who have not known a man and made them into their wives. They also stole them women who were dancing were at Shiloh. You got to make sure the men got some poom poom. If the men ain't getting no poom poom, they're problematic. So if them Corinthians was up there having a problem with their women and they ain't getting no poom poom, you don't want them Corinthians starting no trouble. So yeah, you tell them, man, don't worry about it. Jesus coming back. You ain't gotta be worried about the fact that you ain't getting no poom poom. Matter of fact, you need to be like me. If you ain't got a wife already, be like me. Be celibate. But if you just gotta have one, then go ahead and get a wife so that you ain't burning with lust. That's right. Dwayne said it right. Can't get no ass. I'm whooping some ass. Exactly. And for them jokers, it must not have been enough little boys around either. Because them Corinthians, them Greeks. So, yeah. I sure would. Tell them gotta go get some of that poom poom. I'm telling you, the poom poom is undefeated. It's undefeated. I remember I was working with a dude in Germany. His wife, the church that they came from, out of Hawaii, and they were from some Idaho, somewhere like that. But they believe that the only time you have sex is when you're trying to have a child. Other than that, you should not be having sex. The only time that man was happy and had the best personality is during the time frame when him and his wife was trying to have a baby. Once she got pregnant and the poom poom went away, he went back to his crotchety old self. That man came to work every day irritated and flustered. If you wanted somebody to foul you hard on the basketball court, that joker will foul you like nobody's business. He was what was the boy from Detroit? God damn, I forgot the boy from Detroit back in the day. But he was fouling. He was, you can tell when he wasn't getting none. I've heard people say this, that Starbucks is the Lilith, the little mermaid is the symbol of Lilith, and they're spreading the Lilith culture. So it is of my humble opinion, based on the evidence of how the writings are done, based on the Bacchae, that Paul, and based on what the Vespasian were trying to accomplish, that they utilized the literature that was already created of Euripides' Bacchae. Yeah, Lambert, thank you, Raymond of Age. Yes, yeah, that boy hit you like Lambert. Couldn't jump, save his life, but he was one of them thick corn-fed motherfuckers, and he would hit you hard. But I think they used aspects of the Bacchae, created this character of Paul, and sent somebody out to teach a Gentile version of Christianity to help the Roman people, to help the Roman government from having revolts. You got to remember, the job of an emperor of Rome is two things. And this is the job of any president or dictator or king or whatever. You're either there to grow the empire or maintain the empire. So in this case, in the time frame of Rome, you got all the ethnic groups. You need to control these people. And Vespasian was a master at changing people's stories, getting people to believe something different so that they will fall in line with the Roman government. And Paul was certainly, this agent, whoever was acting as Paul, was most assuredly acting in a form of agency for the Roman government. And the writer of Luke followed in the same suit, agent of Rome. But at the same time, you fight that other front because the Hebrew people were also still disruptive. So you have your Peter and you have your whoever the authors of Mark and Matthew trying to change the Hebrew people to stop them from revolting. Now, it didn't work. Like anything, people will create division out of everything that happens. And out of that division, you get more chaos. Out of that division, you had Christians fighting Christians. You had Hebrews fighting Hebrews. You still had uprisings within the Roman government up until 381, when Theodosius was like, hell no, everybody Christian, god dang it. We're going to settle this once and for all. Everybody from the top of the government on down is going to be Christian. I have no idea who that is. So after hearing that, after hearing what I just proposed and what I just talked about, do you think he was an agent, an actual live agent person going around teaching this? Because I think that's the best. If you're going to do that thing, that's the best way to do it, is to pay somebody to go out and set up these churches, create these churches, and teach this Romanized version of Judaism? Or do you think he was just a literary character that was just made up? That whomever started this religion just made him up? Because for me, there's always got to be there's a reason, there's a why to everything. There's a why to it. You don't just start a story and just tell it. You got to have a reason why you're telling this story, especially when this story has implications of people revolting over within your government. Now, it's possible, could just be a made up story. Somebody could have just wrote a story for shits and giggles and people believe it. You know, I would not be surprised if people today believe that what's that lady that the J.K. Rowling stories, the not the Hobbits, what did she wrote? The Harry Potter stories. If there are people who believe that that shit is real. As a matter of fact, I have met Star Trek fanatics who literally believe that Star Trek was a story that was created, but it was a real story that the government is started utilizing the Star Trek in order to hide the aliens that were on Earth. Right? Make a fake person, that image to push Christianity for the Romans. Yeah. But the best way, you got to have somebody going out and doing that thing. You want somebody to tell the story, a charismatic person to go out and tell the story, connect with the people, to go to Corinth and Ephesus and talk to these people and tell them about the good news of Jesus. And mind you, the letters of Paul are supposed to be older than the actual Gospels. So this version of Paul, this version of Christianity that Paul is going around to the Greeks and the Romans and all the other ethnic groups and telling this story to, they wouldn't have much basis for Judaism. They wouldn't be coming from Judaism. They'd be coming from the worship of whatever their deities were, whether it was the Germanic deities of Woden and all of them, or it was the Kemetic version, whether it was Serapis or anybody else. Don't write in caps, Lawnmower Man, but it's not too good to be true. Just like we got genius propagandists today, there has always been genius propagandists. There will always be genius propagandists. Yep. If he existed, purely a Roman agent slash ambassador, because that was the whole premise of Paul, is to convert Jews and Romans into Christianity. I don't know, but it would be genius to get oppressed people to believe accepting their suffering in a in a show of faith and trust in God that will be rewarded by eternal life and total happiness. American slavery. And I mean North, South American, Caribbean, the whole thing, Central American, American slavery, African colonization, uh, North African conquering of the and creation of Moors, uh, Muslim incursion in India. Christians tried to make an incursion in India, it didn't work out too well. Missionaries, period. All right, the black church. Black church have you suffering your entire life, paying that 10%, and you don't get dick shit. And then you sit up there and die broke, penniless, a whole bunch of wasted potential. And it's not just the black church, poor white churches. Go to one of them poor white churches, they're just as bad as the black church. That has been a model for centuries. Hell, I can't even, centuries is doing it short. Governments have always singled out great writers, great speakers, and then align them with their cause and get them to convince the people. It's the way to do things. It's one of the best ways to get things done. If you wanted to get a project done in any city, right, that you know you might have opposition from the people or the government, then you hire a consultant who knows how to smooth the grounds, knows which people to bribe, knows which people that he need to talk to, put him up in front of the people, get him on the talk shows, convince people that they need to support whatever this issue is or this thing that's going to be done. And once you get enough support, the people follow suit. They will go happily to their own demise and think that they are doing something for themselves. Hell, there are some people who believe that the office of the presidency in the United States is nothing more than a mouthpiece for either the 13 families, the Bilderberg group, you know, a whole bunch of other, the Illuminati, and about 50, 11 other different groups. You know, the Skull and Bones, you know, the Masons, the Templars, what other groups that they try to put it on? They try to put it on 50, 11 different groups, depending on who you're talking to. Oh, you was agreeing with me, my bad. You know, I'm easy to, he was agreeing with me. Yeah. People do that all the time. Hell, I see it happening quite often. You need that person to get it across, to make the people think that it's to their benefit. This is why, on average, children only do 10% better than their parents. Because they got all these oppositional forces that are telling them that this is the way to prosperity, knowing full well it is not. Yep. Abraham Lincoln used Frederick Douglass to convince people to move towards his agenda. And he probably even knew that Abraham Lincoln's final plan was to send all the freed slaves to Liberia. That was his plan. That Liberia was created in order to send all the freed slaves once the Civil War was over to Liberia. That was Lincoln's ultimate plan. So Frederick Douglass was very instrumental in that. And if Lincoln would have survived, probably more than half of the population, I think they say estimated there was 2 million free slaves, they would have been sent to Liberia. And Monroe, is Monroe who continued that? Who did try to do that? Yes, because their capital is Monrovia. So Monroe tried to continue that program. So this is why you got to understand how those kind of plans work and how people do things like that. This is why people join. Like, if you go and you become a Toastmaster, and let's say you win their tournaments and all that kind of thing, you become sought after simply because you won regional or national or worldwide Toastmaster events. If you become great at Toastmasters, you ain't even got to have qualifications for an industry. Companies will want you for being a great spokesperson. Say the conditions were her. Which conditions are those? Because I went to Liberia. It was pretty messed up when I went there. It's people who think Conan the Barbarian was true, and they will fight you if otherwise. People will believe all kinds of stuff. If you are a good enough speaker, you can convince people to believe anything. Especially if it's like the dream that I had. Peter came crashing down because he was just trying to ultimately get rid of something. Paul zigzagged down the mountain, you know, just change a little here, change a little there, change, just a little change here. You're already used to being in the Roman government. Let me give you some hope within the Roman government. Let me make you think that all this pain and suffering that you're going through, it's all going to be worth it. Because all those rich Romans, all those, orgy having Romans and drunkard Romans, oh, they're going to go to hell. But you guys who are suffering, you get to go to heaven. That's what that German dude did. That German dude galvanized the German people by saying that, oh, it's the Jew people's fault. It's their fault. That's why Germany is suffering. And if we eliminate them, then we'll eliminate the suffering. And they bought into it. He told that lie over and over and over and over again, and they bought into it. And the overwhelming majority of people weren't even part of his party, but they bought into it. Just like on that Black History video I did yesterday, the Elaine massacre in Arkansas, they told the lie so well that Black people who were just trying to start a union, which unions were already prevalent in America at that time frame, that they were actually communists and they were trying to kill the white people. And that lie went all the way up to the president, and the president believed it. Just like they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. I literally know people who believe in the MAGA movement who believe that they were eating the dogs and eating the cats. Over and over, it continues to happen. Why does and people will believe it. If you tell that lie long enough, they're going to believe it, even when you present them with facts. And you're right, agnostic atheist. You're not use and abuse people for over almost 409 years, and then you want to try to send them back? Hell no. Oh, and like Lawnmower said, this is something that people like Jim Jones, they use that to trick all those people, and all those people willingly died. Falls Gate people willingly died. Waco, Texas people willingly died. Hell, you said pimps. That's what pimps use to get people to prostitute for them. Seeing a person who's distressed, promise them a better life, all the while you're just abusing them yourself. I know, that's why I made the video. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cat. Eat the cat. Eat the cat. They're eating the dogs. That shit was good. The subconscious mind is reprogrammed through repetition. Repeat to yourself something like "I'm attractive," for example, over and over again, and eventually you'll start to believe it, and you certainly will. This is one of the things when what does he call it? neurolinguistic programming. You say something, you look at something, you believe something. It can be to your benefit, but if you do it over and over again, people believe it. Isaac, I don't even know why y'all respond to that dude. You know he don't know what he was talking about. He don't know what he was talking about. And the thing about it, if Lincoln would have survived, yeah, the 13th Amendment would have been ratified, but at the same time, his ancestors probably would have been sent to Africa. And Lincoln said, if I could keep the Union without freeing one slave, I would do it. I wouldn't free one slave. And if it wasn't for old girl writing Uncle Tom's Cabin, which regalvanized the abolitionist movement, he probably wouldn't have freed any slaves. And you're all right. As far as that attractive one, there's a joke amongst people who was at my lounge. Is this young lady that she doesn't know it, but we call her 5'6". She has said to herself that she's 5'6". She's a 5 or 6. That motherfucker's a 2, in most people's opinion. And this other woman was like, I'm a 10, I'm a 10. She looked like Celie on a bad day. You are not a 10. Now, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But you know there's an average thing. And you're right about this. The Emancipation Proclamation didn't have any authority until after the Confederacy lost. When he first wrote it, it was like one of those promises in the sky. Hey, black people, y'all fight for us, then we're going to free all the slaves down there. If you're a slave in the South and you fight for us, we're going to free you. And we ain't won shit yet, but this is the hope that I'm going to give you by writing this Emancipation Proclamation. And for all you Northerners, ooh, look at what we going to do if we win this war. We're going to free the slaves. That shit had no authority until it was over. And that's why they still had to do the 13th Amendment. Yes, Harry Beecher Stowe, which, as a reminder, Uncle Tom is the hero in the story. He's the one that was helping slaves get free, filling their bags with cotton if they didn't make their quota, not willing to beat slaves. It was Sambo who was the wrong one. Then they kept doing minstrel shows and using the name Uncle Tom, and all of a sudden by the 1920s and 30s, well, no, it was later than that. So by the 1930s and 40s, and black people were running around calling other black people Uncle Tom if they were traitorous towards black people. Uncle Tom was the damn hero. People kill me with that one. Now, see, this is, and I know we're going in a different direction here. That's where the mistake is made. We should not be fighting. Some fights you take and some fights you don't take, right? You don't fight against people who don't want to move in a direction with you. You let them be and let them die in their own juices, as we would say in the military. Let them die in their own blood. Everybody, those who want to fight with you in a direction that you want to go ahead and fight it. The other people come along. It's called the law of innovation or diffusion. You just use that law and it works every time. Hold on. Usually I ignore the hell out of this man. Uncle Tom is not here and it's still awake. And you don't know what you're talking about. I bet you've never even read Uncle Tom's Cabin. I mean, you can't spell or create a structured sentence, but I'm sure that you've never read it. It's just some dumb shit. Alexis Farrell ate a live cat in Canton. Yeah, wasn't that a white dude though? Not that it makes it any better, but JD Vance said something and the other joker just repeated it. But it does. When a person, a lie can change a whole societal thought. We should be, as Black people, we should be celebrating, as people, we should celebrate people like Uncle Tom. But nope, they've convinced you otherwise. Can't give Black people a hero. Oh, I see what you're saying, Dollar. We fought for and against America in the Revolutionary War and in the North and South War and in World War One and World War II, Korea, Vietnam. Still to this day, I see what you're talking about. I got you. I got you. Exactly right. But what we should be doing is fighting more for ourselves. I know I went to the military and I know I served. But if I had the mind then that I have now, I'd have never joined the military. I wouldn't have fought shit. Like Muhammad Ali. My war is here. No Arab ever did anything to me. We gotta stop saying that. Not every time. Every Black person that tried to help Black people did not die. They did not. Now, have they tried to take out some of the primary leaders? Yes. But everyone didn't die. But we can't be afraid of death either. If they come for you, they come for you. Because martyrdom sometimes can be a worse fate, a worse thing for them to do. And then now, in today's time, it will be even harder. There are too many eyes, too many cameras, too much going on. Too many people who have seen that system work. We can always point out the ones who did die. What about some of the ones who didn't? And not all people are killed by the government. Some have been killed by industries. Like you mentioned, Left Eye, Sabi. That wasn't the government. That was industry. But that doesn't mean we stop fighting. If you don't fight because you are afraid of death, then you shouldn't be in the fight at all. You don't even just stay out of the way. Be a lieutenant in the back. Be a lieutenant in the back. Be a sergeant. Be a staff sergeant. Be a sergeant major. Just support a leader. It takes a special kind of person actually to stand up front knowing that their life could be on the line. Hell no. Shit, sometimes the industry is run the government. Fuck around with that meat industry. Mess with the meat industry. See, it won't be the government. It'll be the meat industry. Hell, they went as far as killing a nun in the Amazon. You fuck around with that meat industry, boy. But you can't be afraid. Just like that nun wasn't afraid, you can't be afraid. Right. The industry can be much bigger. But and then sometimes shit just happens. Sometimes you don't even need, you just have some crazy fanatic. That's why people walk into churches and they shoot people. I don't know where Jesus was at when they were shooting them people in the churches, but sometimes people show up at other folks' events, other people protest, and they just shoot people because they feel so enraged. That's what's up. Don't ever be scared. I don't know. People need to look up the Zong massacre. I have to look that up. I've never heard of the Zong massacre. Zong massacre. Mm, mm. I have heard of this. I have heard of this. This is when the 130 enslaved African people and their crew were killed. This happened in England. Um, and when the boat showed up and it didn't have any people on it, the first ruling from the government said that the first ruling from the judge said that, oh, well, they weren't people, they were just cargo. So they had a right to kill them. But then there was a second hearing that they actually overturned the first hearing. But yeah, they killed like 130 people on this boat. I forgot why. Oh, the ship ran low on drinking water after a series of navigational errors. So they threw the enslaved Africans overboard. Yeah, I do remember that. Oh, how many of y'all knew this? I didn't know that. That Mama King was murdered in her church, in her husband's church. Shit, you think I would have known that living in Atlanta, but I didn't know that one. That's a new one on me. You said by a young Hebrew Israelite? I'm not surprised. That did not even surprise me. So, what black person has succeeded in helping the people? This is it's not a difficult question, but it's a question that's based on measured success, right? It's based on measured success. I do not agree with integration, and I was glad that Dr. King was switching gears a bit towards the end. But I got to say that it was the everybody who was involved in the civil rights movement gained a measure of success in the effect of, if Jim Crow laws had not been shut down in the 60s, then I would have probably grew up under Jim Crow laws. You know, Jim Crow laws. I mean, look at South Africa with apartheid. Apartheid didn't end until what, the late 90s, late 90s, somewhere around in there. By early mid 90s is when apartheid ended. So imagine Jim Crow laws lasting just as long into the 90s, Right. So there are some measured success that you can look at with everybody who participated in the civil rights movement, because it wasn't just Dr. King. I mean, if it was, you had Dr. King, Stokely Carmichael, Malcolm X, Huey, Huey Newton. I was about to say Huey P. Lewis, but Huey Newton. You had a lot of people and a lot of ground level people too. So it was a concerted effort by a bunch of different people. And even to this day, there are still, whether it's grassroots levels, but there are still Black people who are helping other Black people. Some on a national level, do we see that? No. I mean, when growing up in Atlanta, I saw what Maynard Jackson and I saw the results of Maynard Jackson's work and shit. I forgot the other mayor, but the successive Black mayors in Atlanta, especially from the civil rights time frame to when I was, of age, the Black population in Atlanta would not be doing as well as they're doing, even though they're still on the lower end. When you look at the city of Atlanta, when you look at the 16% of the people who are in poverty, Black people make up 96% of that, or 90 something percent of it. So it's still, you know. Yeah. I'm not a fan of Jesse Jackson, but measured success. I have never heard this. I've never heard that before. If it wasn't for those people during the civil rights, that Black group that's been organizing Black people as militias to protect neighborhoods, they wouldn't be able to do that. They wouldn't have been able to do that. And yeah, certain people, once they reach a certain level, especially during the time frames where you can easily railroad a person, you can easily, let me rephrase that, you can easily railroad a Black person, and the overwhelming majority of America would side with you. That power has decreased tremendously. That power has, you can't get away with the shit, the things they were doing then, you couldn't get away with now. You can't sick dogs on people. You ain't turning the fire hoses on people. You're not locking people up. Um, civic leaders of that level, you're not locking them up on some bullshit. You gotta have something good. Now, there are many people who want us to go, who desire to go back to that kind of a lifestyle, but it ain't gonna happen. Hell, now the government has to be just as worried about these Gen Z and millennials, of every different race, more than just Black people. Jesse did have some power back in the I'm with you dollar, especially back in the 80s and in the 80s. Shit. If Jesse said that we going against you, damn companies would be like, oh, hold on now. See, I'm just posting this up because of the first line, because it just shows your ignorance. Never say never, it can happen again. People like you don't know what you're talking about. Let me explain something to you, young fella. The street that I live on is filled with a whole bunch of black military retirees, uh, and we all got guns. Ain't no KKK walking down this street. That shit ain't happening. If we decided that you ain't doing something on this street, it ain't happening. Ain't nobody coming down here. You ain't nobody hanging from no tree in this street. Too many black folks with guns. This shit ain't happening. You can get that. So there are certain things that just ain't gonna happen. Now, I only read the first part of this, but I hate to admit that to a certain I agree with you to a certain degree. We did have to integrate because too many of our when we were building wealth in our communities, then if it wasn't for the highway system, if it wasn't for flooding or just straight up race riots, we just really didn't have the economic power at that time frame to be able to really establish something, because that was prior to that was a time frame where it was destroying black communities and nobody lifted a finger. Now you couldn't go and destroy a black community like that. You couldn't do that now. Sean stupid. Yeah, no, we don't know what he's saying or thinking, because I don't want to know what he's thinking. But if a situation rears its head that is big enough, trust and believe you will see a militia of the people faster than you realize. I was even in the 70s, the KKK tried to march through my hometown, Marietta, Georgia. It's the last time they ever marched through there, because my father and a bunch of his friends got together, came up there with their guns, and started shooting at them. KKK ain't never marched through Marietta since. It was like the late 70s. Never did it. Never since have they tried it ever again. And this is the thing, you see a lot of, if you're paying attention to a lot of stuff, this is the fight. When they try to redraw these lines and redefine areas, you get they getting that shit ain't working like it used to. Used to they could just redraw the lines, nobody said a damn word. Now, no, they got a fight on their hands. They try to do that. If you go to some of these cities and you try to redraw the line so that you can diminish the population vote of any particular group, hell no. You get, and they hit them. They know where to hit them now. You hit them in their pocket. I've heard of that happening on multiple occasions, where the KKK would try to march somewhere, and that was one. And the Bloods and Crips was like, hell no. Hey, you give us a common enemy, we put aside our differences. And you know what, dog? I could not understand for the life of me how they kept re-electing Marion Barry. This man get caught with prostitutes. This man get caught with some crack, everything. And they kept putting him back as mayor. And then I took notice that, oh, this joker been getting black folks all kind of government jobs. And no wonder that man keep being the mayor. You're right about that. He was a gangster. I ain't understand it for a while. Not until I started having to go to DC for some meetings and stuff, and I was like, damn. This was in the mid '90s. I was like, well, all these black folks. I thought Atlanta had all the black folks in government. Here it is. They keep putting that man in office. We'll say he was embarrassing, but he got my vote every time. I understand. Because in Atlanta politics, even if I didn't like the black person who was running, I know what the black mayors have been doing for Atlanta. So I was like, we ain't finna get this power up. Say saw him in the strip. Say saw him in the strip club. No, there's been a few times that I didn't vote, but most of the time I vote, and I mostly pay attention to local things because I know the local things actually affect my life. A lot of and I'll pay attention to those more so than anything else. Because if you get the wrong person in your local government, they can just wreck your whole thing. I watch government use eminent domain to steal a bunch of folks' land, a bunch of poor people land, black and white, because people weren't paying attention to the local election. Yep. Oh yeah. Maynard Maynard Jackson was doing some shit, but he was putting black people in the right position in Atlanta. Him, Andrew Young, him and Andrew Young, they set that city up right. Black people would be nowhere near as financially advanced and landowning advanced as they are in Atlanta if it wasn't for Maynard Jackson and Andrew Young. But other politicians help out their friends, they help out their families. I don't see any problems with somebody doing exactly the same. Don't let me be a politician. I'm gonna hook all y'all up. Y'all be hooked up. This man write a whole paragraph with no periods, no commas, and no sentence structure. And words don't even. I just gotta put this up so y'all can see it. And his dad do not know to white man and no name in the man and on top of that and announce to the black people, like I said, black people is the one who built this country on a white man's expenses. Okay, that part is understandable. And the people on people like you don't know that you should be ashamed just for a black man and miss you uneducated and you don't know what you talk about a black man. Oh my gosh. Do y'all see why I ignore most of his comments? See, y'all on YouTube, y'all don't get to see that stuff. YouTubers, y'all get to miss out on that. I just had to show the YouTube people. And then, he wrote all that and he was trying to say that I'm educated for. Ah. Right space. How you made a cake right worth a damn. Oh, oh, oh man. Mm. Oh, 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 y'all be killing me. I just wanted my YouTube people to see what I have to deal with. Well, I don't have to deal with it because I don't deal with it at all. I just ignore it personally. I just constantly ignore it. All right, so we got about 15, 20 minutes. What y'all want to talk about? What other subject matter y'all want to talk about before we get off of here? Oh, oh my gosh. I got some damn smoke in my eye messing around with this joker. Mm. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh, I gotta say, how many of y'all saw my video I posted about how the Pope is not black? Stop starting stuff, Isaac. I'm in an atheist. Ah. Hmm. So you're waiting on the Lord to help him with his grammar. How many of y'all think the Pope is black? Now you still need to go watch it. I need the views, okay? I need the views. I don't care if you let it play in the background. I need the views. That's how we keep the lights on. You think the Pope is black? Why? Why is he black? Nope. He's not Hispanic. He spent most of his life in Peru, but he's not Hispanic. You'll watch the video good. Go watch that video. Y'all watch that video. I am not even gonna tell you. And I break down the one drop rule and how the one drop rule was a tool of white supremacy is no bullshit. And Debbie makes the best comment. I don't care. Oh well, Trauma had a good one too. Fuck him. Oh. Mm-hmm. Yep. You graduated with some. Yeah. Now the provosts are white, or just straight up white. He had a grandmother who was mulatto, meaning she was half white, half black. So his maternal grandmother was half white, half black. Now he has not played the race card or said anything about it. It's one of his brothers is the one who acknowledged his family heritage. That man is Roman Catholic. That's all he really care about. Yeah, and I don't really care what color he is. He's perpetuating he's perpetuating colonization of people, the place, and the mind. Oh, he says Shiite. Um, No, her team is losing by 3, and there's 4 minutes and 21 seconds left. Yes, his people are from Louisiana by way of Haiti on his grandmother's side. And like I said, she's half white, half black. And I make that point on the video that black is more than a color. Isaac stupid. The Pope don't know what he's talking about. He's uneducated for a black man. All right. So y'all watch that video, definitely. Actually, I probably shouldn't talk about videos that I made today because I don't want y'all. Well, no, I just mentioned it. Y'all can go watch the rest of it. Y'all go watch the rest of it. Like I also published a video today where this black guy is saying that tonight begins 3 days of darkness. We're gonna have 3 days of darkness starting tonight. So the sun ain't supposed to rise tomorrow. Did y'all know the sun ain't supposed to rise tomorrow? Made a video about that too. Exactly. Black people shouldn't care because but black people they don't pay attention. Most black people just want everybody who's has any celebrity or any power to be black. Whether or not they do anything for black people or not, they don't care. Most of them, most black people don't care. But Catholicism is just about is ethics, like she said, ethnic supremacy. They're related. It was Pope Nicholas V who decided that fifth or fourth, who decided that yeah, go colonize and make all them black people down there in Southern Africa slaves. Say it may not be visible tomorrow because of the sun, because of the clouds. No, this young man was saying that we're gonna have 3 days of darkness. Whether he meant it literally or figuratively, but I think by the way he spoke on the video, he means it literally. Yep, got to get you some more candles. Got to keep them saying some more bullshit. Yes, you get some candles all you want. It ain't gonna matter. Think about the science of the sun not coming up. Yeah, if the sun don't come up, you got a problem. We all dead anyway. Exactly. Just like they keep saying that Jesus don't come back. Jesus ain't coming back. I should have said that in the video. I wish I would have said that in the video. That his electricity bill gonna get cut off tonight. And he don't get paid for 3 days. I wish I would have thought about that in the video. I wish I would have thought about that. That would have been a good comment to make. I didn't think about that at the time. Woo! Because Jesus ain't ever coming back. He will never come back. She down there dying. I guess it's Boston is getting their ass whooped again. Let me see. Yeah, they still got time. They still got time. Boston still got time. You'll be all right down there. Oh, Tatum hurt. She just saw Tatum get hurt. Look, I don't know why these Christians keep on. You know, every generation always think Jesus is coming back, but he's never coming back. I'm becoming a nihilist. I used to know what that meant. What is a nihilist? No, oh, nihilism. Oh, no, I'm not a nihilist. Um, I don't think that life is meaningless. I don't think that there's some God that we're going to. Because if there was a Jesus and he came back, I would ask him, what planet is he from? And is it better than Earth? Because if it is, can I go? Because Earth sucks sometimes. Where where was Paul buried? Mary, Martha, Peter. Then let us go back into his tomb. Exactly. There's none. There's no burial site for any of those people. That's why Paul, like I was saying earlier in this video, that Paul is a made up character that a Roman agent went around trying to convince people to just accept whatever the Romans were giving them and be happy with their lot in life. Look, Debbie, if Jesus was real and he came back, and of course he'd be an alien, he ain't taking James. Just like the Babylonians and the Assyrians, they took the best and the brightest. Him not in that group. What? Oh, that's like old boy from Cleveland. They done. If he hurt, they done. Really, really, Benny. That's your great grandfather. Okay, so the reason why I can't be a nihilist, and the reason why I said there is meaning to life, because I exist. Because life, I give life my own meaning. I think that is the problem with most people. Most people don't create meaning for their own lives, and so they look outside themselves for meaning. This is why people become enslaved to religions, or they get caught up into idol worship, which would be like entertainers and people of that nature, or politicians or whomever, or kings and queens. They become idol worshipers of those people because they haven't given their own life meaning. Like, we have smaller variations that you give your life meaning, like you have children, your life has meaning to live for your kids or to raise your kids, and so on and so forth, that sort of thing. But even that is not enough. I give my life meaning for my own existence, of for what I desire to see out of my life and within my life and around my life. So I can't be a nihilist because I think beyond, I create my own existence and how that's going to be. Like my universe, and we all live in our own little small universe that sometimes join together. Like our universes are joined together right now. And within that, there is meaning. So part of the meaning of my life is doing what I'm doing now. So uh, helping people to deconstruct from these religions and to find their true self and grow into being a greatest version of themselves gives me meaning to my life, right? So there is meaning in life if you decide that there's going to be meaning in life. Now, as far as beyond this life, no one knows, but I give it the meaning that my conscience, I will grow my conscience, I will continue to grow my consciousness to the level by which when I do end this existence, I will manufacture my own existence in however I deem appropriate. It probably be completely different from 99.99% of the people that ever live, but it'll be my existence. Oh, he got wheeled off in a wheelchair? Oh shit, he done. So your need for fellowship got you caught up in a cult. And that happens. That happens. That's how cults are developed, by finding people who share that common need. Explain. Or are you talking to me? But explain. Because I wouldn't say that. Because I would have been much rather have not been born in America. If slaves needed to be in America in order for me to be born, then I would have rather never been born. Somebody said something up here. Neil deGrasse Tyson said once, if Jesus comes, then there will be more believers. Yeah. But if he doesn't, will that make more believers into non-believers? Over time, it has. The fact that this Jesus has ceased to never come and people keep predicting that he's going to come, many people have awakened up to the fact that it's all a bunch of bullshit, because in their desire for him to come and they're trying to understand, okay, this person said he's coming, but he's not. This person's coming, but he didn't. This person said he's coming, but he didn't. Let me dig deeper into this so that I can understand when somebody's actually right about him coming. Then they dig deeper and they wind up walking away from it. Then hopefully they teach their children. And this is why this is one of the reasons why the group of non-believers have been outpacing any other group in the world. But one thing's for certain, one thing's for sure. The Jesus of the Bible ain't coming back, because he is not a real being. Oh, I just say everything happens for a reason. Nah, there is a reason, but it's not some unknown reason. Everything happens because somebody willed it to happen. Somebody or some group of people willed for that thing to be. And you're right. Meaning is subjective. It's very subjective, because, and the beauty of it being subjective is you get to decide what your meaning is. And that falls into what Isaac was saying, what I was saying about what Isaac said. Trauma was just responding to it. But everything happens because somebody willed that thing to happen, because that willingness gave them meaning. Oh, you were responding to how we fought through all that sperm to be burned on purpose. Stupid. Right. Everything in the universe comes down to cause and effect. There's a cause and there's an effect for everything. Sometimes you don't know what the cause is, but you are a victim to the effects of other people's causations or governments or anything else. But this is where, especially when I'm coaching with someone one-on-one, one of the primary things that I get across to them is that they are the causation. So shameless plug right here. If you want some personal coaching, those are the kind of things that we get down and deep into your own personal individual lives. The other shameless plug is that many of us, not me, but many of us struggle financially. And one of the reasons we struggle financially is because we have not been the causation of our financial picture. This is why on June the 1st, I am doing a webinar called Financially on Fire. If you follow these principles and these steps and everything that I teach you in this, and then read the DIY book that I'm going to give you after the seminar, there is no reason why a year from now, your financial picture should be 10 times better than it is right now. 2 years from now, it should be 50 times better, just by becoming the causation of your financial situation. Because most of us are victims of somebody else's financial situation. But even when somebody else does something financially, we have remedies that we can take to not find ourselves in the negative. So there's a link that was posted in the description of this video. Sign up for Financially on Fire. June 1st, starts at 12 noon Central Standard Time, and it's only $10. You got to invest in yourself. That's one of the first things that you have to understand, is that self-investment is vital. Shameless plug. Oh, huh? Yeah. I don't know. Let me see. Hold on. I got my wife a Fuente. It shouldn't be, but this is not one of hers. This is a Fuente. But it still should smoke right. V-cut it. Don't punch it. I don't have a V-cutter up here. Yeah, you gotta go all the way back downstairs. But you want to V-cut this one. Use the small V-cut. But use the small V-cut, not the big one. Thank you for giving the membership, Raf. Wait. My wife is so sad right now because her Celtics lost again. And what's so sad about her Celtics losing is that on the 17th, yeah, you can revitalize a cigar. If it's been sitting there getting dry, you just need to put it in a humidor and maintain the humidor for about 2 to 3 weeks, and it'll be good as new. But my wife is so sad because her Celtics lost. And seeing as how her birthday is Thursday. I mean, not Thursday, on the 17th. And all she wanted for her birthday was for the Celtics to go on to the Eastern Conference Finals. But if you would like to gift my wife anything for her birthday, I just posted her Cash App. See, she laughing now. See, the joke made her laugh. The joke made her laugh. Okay, I missed some of y'all comments. Can we get it started for you? This does not mean I'm going to stay on here. I am literally just starting a cigar for my wife. You know, it's going to breathe. It's going to breathe. Mm-hmm. It's breathing. Mm. Oh. Mm. Got some coffee notes and cocoa notes right on the foot. And it's not peppery. Mm. A little dry fruit. There's no weed in the cigar, sir. She was wondering why I was smoking her cigar. She was like, ain't you supposed to? All I got is this. Let's see. What did man, you send my wife a Saints hat, we both gonna fight you. You're changing your name to Remick and recruiting more travelers on the rocky road to Dublin. Ah, oh my gosh. We don't smoke weed. We don't participate in that. Mainly because one of the reasons I don't because it stinks. It just stinks. I forgot the hell I was talking about. You still got that Sinners movie still in your head? Mm-hmm. I sent Ryan Kruger an email and I said, "Hey, you owe me some money. Some more people want to see your movie because we talked about it." Said weed makes people forget to pray. Ah, no, I just weed just don't do nothing for me. It gives me like a knot in my chest and it gives me a headache. I mean, so I'm just that's the other reason. This one is breaking apart. At the, but it ain't breaking apart. Just I've been pinching the hell out of it. Yeah, but I definitely want you guys to take. Go ahead and ask me a financial question. Ask me a financial question. I want you guys to take this class. Um, yeah, like how many? Yeah, to rehab a cigar, depending upon how dry it is, it could take up to 3 weeks. I'm rehabbing a guy's about 6 or 7 of his cigars right now that we're rehabbing for him. How much money do you need to save out? The normal is about 6 months of life. Whatever 6 months of your uh, what your nut is. A nut is like your bills. Your bills. Let me specify that. In business terms, if somebody say what's your nut, they mean what's your rent, what's your bills, what's your overhead. So you need to save it. You need to get to a point where you have 6 months saved up. Now, then you need to get 6 months invested. After you get 6 months invested, you need to learn how to grow that investment so that you can then build yourself a true nest egg and actually be able to deliver out what is a number that you need to have to be able to live the rest of your life on and live purely on the interest, not just on the money and it's constantly being burned. And yes, this is one of the golden rules. Is the golden rule is still to pay yourself 10% first? Yes. Pay yourself first, then you pay your bills. But you got to get to that state of being. When I first started realizing finances and studying finance and understanding finances, I was leveraged at 112%. So I had more burn going out. My burn rate was too high. So then I had to do some things in order to decrease uh, my overhead. And when I did those things to decrease my overhead, which was not only just some people just get another job, I created a job for myself based on, and I looked around for opportunities to do so. Once I did that, uh, got where my overhead was only at 80%, then I started paying myself 10% and investing 10%. So that is still part of that golden rule. You have to look up a video on that because it's very intricate to tell you. You got to of how to make a cigar. It's a lot of in it, and it takes a lot of practice. All right. So for one, I would have to know what your individual situation is in order to know this. So in order to give you great advice on this. But to start out with, there is some form of fashion that everybody can make some more money. If you're in a situation where you have to be able to figure out how you can increase income into your household. I don't know what opportunities you have in front of you. I don't know what your skill sets are. But once we develop those skill sets, then you can put yourself in a situation where you can make more money. Now, you can initially start out with something simple. I did a challenge, and most of you guys were probably not following me back then. But back in 2018, 17, 18, I did a challenge where I challenged everybody that what we're going to do is we're going to go to estate sales, we're going to go to yard sales, and we're going to go to the, what's them stores? What's the store? The outlet stores. And we're going to buy products, and then we're going to turn and flip them on Facebook Marketplace. So we flipped those items. Now, there were some people who didn't have money to go to a yard sale or anything like that. So we look around your house, find items that you haven't used for 6 months. If you ain't used it for 6 months, you ain't gonna use it. Start selling those items. And when you sell those items, take the money from them and don't spend it. Take the money from that to initiate you being able to buy products that you can then sell. Especially it's easy with this yard sales. Estate sales are best because usually it's greater quality. I would go to the Nike outlet store and buy last year or a year before or 2-year-old models of something for like $70. I mean, like $50 or $70. But I would look on Facebook Marketplace before I buy it and see, oh, somebody's selling this same item brand new for $100 or $120. And here I can get it for 70 or 50. Especially like those Adidas shell toes. I used to go get those too. Used to get them for $30, $40 because it was a store always selling them for 70% off. And then I would flip those items and sell them for like $80, $90 and keep regenerating that money. So that's one way you can do that. That's one of the easiest things. And most people, they say, little money turns into big money. You get a drip and the drip can turn into a stream. You was like that? Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with paying everything off and then starting to save again, because when you pay everything off, you put yourself in a position where you actually can decrease your overhead and enable you to save money. Well, Facebook ain't the only place. Drew, you're going to have to just start the video over. Phyllis, you are on the wrong page if you're trying to convince somebody to beware of double-minded people, because 99.9% of the people on here don't believe in your scriptures at all. No problem, but you got to be willing to go out there and do it. So to end that, when I challenge people, the average person was able to put between $10,000 and $16,000 back into their pocket. Everybody started out slow. You know, one week you may only make $50, but as they was able to buy other items that they could sell for more and more and more, they made more money. Whatever year the Black Panther movie came out, to give you an example of one of the things I did. So I was selling tennis shoes and I was selling other items on Facebook Marketplace, going to estate sales, selling stuff. The danger of an estate sale, you see something like, ooh, that's nice, and you get it, and then you're like, ooh, I'm gonna keep this for myself. No, you gotta sell that shit. I did keep a couple items though. But I had accumulated enough money that when the Black Panther movie came out and I saw the previews of it, I went and bought bracelets, these kind of bracelets that were the color that had a little Black Panther on it. I had the Golden Jaguar kind, I had the Black Panther kind, the Golden Jaguar kind, I had a Dora Milaje kind. And I bought like 1,000 of them. And I bought them for like $1.75. And I turned around and sold each one of them for $12 each. That movie stayed #1 for like 6-7 weeks or some shit like that. At the end of the day, I made over $10,000 selling them damn bracelets while that movie was out. So you got to kind of look at what you're doing. Now, at the end of the year, though, I had made about $36,000. It was about 36,000 is what I made. Because I also went and I sold some restaurant equipment. Some of the restaurant equipment was left at the store that I owned that I had took over. So I sold some of that. But I also went to restaurant supply place and I bought some restaurant equipment and sold that too. Oh no, you good, man. You good. It's just, you know, we you know, that's about where we at. What's a rich budget? Well, you have to be able to. So, like I said, I started out. I was like 112% in 1990. From 1990 to 1993, I was at 112% of my budget. Basically, as the saying goes, I was robbing Peter to pay Paul, borrowing money, the whole deal, never getting off up under. But then I started a cleaning supply company, and I took some of the household cleaning stuff I had at my house. And I got my first little contract and I started cleaning. You know, after I got off work, I went and I was cleaning some offices. And I kept cleaning and kept getting more contracts. And through that cleaning, I was able to get my overhead down to where I was only leveraged 80%. The best that I've ever gotten to, my overhead was only 50% of what I made. That's a rich budget. When you only need half of your money to live. What spending habits should be eliminated? Those that you don't have to have. And it's relative to where you're starting. But those you don't have to have, some you can decrease. You probably got streaming services and subscriptions and shit that you don't even use. You can get rid of some of those. You'll be surprised. One of the things I do, people, just like when I was a personal trainer, when I work with somebody with their finances, it's easier, it's faster than personal training. I have them track everything they've eaten for every month, and then I make adjustments. But if I was working with one of you guys, the first thing I would have you do is send me 3 to 6 months of your bank statements, and I will crawl through there, categorize everything, and then see where you're wasting money. Sean said, "Happy birthday." I have to figure finances, personal and mental balance in life. It's all about getting that balance in your life, but you have to be willing to put some effort and work into it. I know you got back problems and knee and leg problems, but if I was coaching you, my response to all of that would be and I don't give a damn. I don't want to hear no excuses. I'll be the first that needs an accountant. And most of us just grew up with bad accounting habits. I was angry with my mom when I first got my first place because I thought those people were trying to scam me, talking about deposits and stuff. And then she was like, you know, you got to pay a deposit to get a place. I was like, no, I didn't. You never taught me anything. You didn't teach me anything about that. I'll be buying food. You can do better. At one point, um, in order to, I had a downturn in business and I had to kind of start over. And so I was a coupon clipping fool. I mean, I'm talking about it. I was grabbing all the doing the double coupons, all that shit. Anything I could to save money. Hmm. So you have to be able to, and all you need is some basic understanding of finances, and you can have a much better financial picture. Get on a meal plan, and not a meal plan where you're buying it from someone that those programs, because those are more costly than groceries. So you need to learn how to cook and stop eating out so much. But plan your meals, shop responsibly. Yes, eat at home. Exactly. You can also do some things that it'll make slight differences, but whether you live in an apartment or a house, you can start growing some of your own stuff. It may not seem like a lot, but it helps. Can you help me? This is why you need to sign up for Financially on Fire, because that's going to be a general sense of helping people. Now, helping someone one on one, you have to sign up for my coaching program. You can Now this mentality here is why a lot of people are broke. You can save, 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 and then you die and didn't get a chance to eat that steak or shrimp. There is a leeway within all budget programs in order for you to still enjoy life, right? So you can still enjoy some life, but too many people are overly enjoying their lives, and you're most likely going to live much longer than you think. I know people who have said that, and they said that in their 30s and 40s, and them fuckers are 80, 90 years old. Talking about, I wish I would have. And there's nothing like making something that stretches. Exactly. Stretching meals work like a charm. I know you just kind of playing Trump. I wish I had a picture of my wife. She grew some damn cabbage and some hydroponic cabbage. That thing got a flower on the top. It's cabbage, right? That thing got a flower. I didn't know cabbages flowered at the top. And she growing some lettuce and some potatoes too, right? And some potatoes and some garlic. What do you just had that for dinner? To the spaghetti god, the flying spaghetti monster on Saturn. But yeah, spaghetti will last you for a week. I got a herd of cows, and a herd of sheep. Don't say that, because then my wife gonna want to come and she like cows and sheep and goats and shit for some reason. Oh wait, you in a whole nother situation. See that type of shit. That's the hardest part about doing a seminar, is you get down to somebody's individual situation. You can make it's a different process, but there's a general process. It depends on where you are. Now, if you got all of that, and like you said earlier, you need an accountant, then that just means you got some bad spending habits. You may have some bad spending habits. When I say that. Email me, Drew. Email me. I can't tell you on here how to get that 100%, but email me, and I can tell you how to get that 100%. That right there is a life changer, and I think every person who serves deserves it. I missed the show. Is he real or fake? Both. Agent of Rome, created in order to help the Roman government. Exactly. I got 968 years to go. Exactly. All right. But so once again, if you think I'm knowledgeable enough, I'm sorry, I should have said it that way. If you like the things that you heard me say thus far, then sign up for Financially on Fire. Like I said, the link is in the description. It's going to be June 1st at 12 noon Central Standard Time. Central Standard Time Zone, whatever. It's CDT, I don't know if that is what it shops up, but I always call it Central Standard Time. Sign up for it. It's only $10. And you will come out of that being able, with a plan, to be able to fix your credit, restore your credit, increase your credit, depending upon what your situation is, get into a good financial mode as far as your budget, and understand how to seek out opportunities to increase the amount of money you have coming in. And all of us have different ways. This seminar is going to be general, but I will try to get as deep into people's personals as we possibly can. So definitely sign up for Financially on Fire. Especially if you joined my last seminar, you know, the seminar was very deep. We got deep into it on the others, on the subject matter of the flood. Finances, I'm equally as knowledgeable in finances as with everything else. What's your question, Trauma? Is no credit good or bad? Bad. Terrible. No credit is just as bad as having bad credit, to be honest, if you have no credit. Because if you have no credit, then your credit score is going to be low. And if you don't have any credit, then you cannot use credit to your advantage. Credit is to be, rich people use credit for their advantage to increase money. Poor people use credit to finance shit that they ain't got no business buying. So no credit is terrible. I rather start with a person who got a bunch of bad credit, because we can fix those things and get their credit score up faster than a person with no credit. But even with no credit, there's a few things you can do to, with no credit, I can still, there are some of the things that I'm gonna talk about with no credit. You'll be able to jumpstart your credit relatively quickly, and within like the first 60 to 90 days, you should be able to get at least 100 to 160 point bump in your credit. But that is the end of tonight's show. Like I said, thank everybody who subscribed to the page, who are members and subscription holders. Uh, if anybody did send my wife a happy birthday Cash App, as I had posted her Cash App in the comments, thank you. Since her Celtics lost, that'll make her smile. If you wanted to purchase any of her cigars or sign up for my one-on-one coaching program, just email me at masteringyou10@gmail.com, and you'll be we can work that out. So I look forward to our next conversations. I'm trying to get to 800. Hard, but not hard to get to 800. Getting to 800, you have to get the perfect balance. You have to get this perfect balance to get to 800. So Drew said, happy birthday, hashtag Knicks Nation. I know you're on YouTube, so you couldn't see it. Right. You're good when they tell you to stop replying. Exactly. Y'all trying to keep me on here. I told y'all I'm done. You're at 750. Yeah, you guess you how much available credit you have? Let me ask that question before I get off here. I'm curious now. How much available credit do you have? Because I guarantee that if you ain't hit 800, your available credit is probably what's holding you back. Because if you're at 750, that means you've been paying everything on time. You have 110,000 in available credit. No balance on them, just available credit. You almost got too much for your, and well, I don't know what your income is. I don't want you to tell me on here what your income is. You got that 812. It's a good credit score. See, when you got credit scores of 750, 812, you are in a position where you can increase your income very rapidly with a good business plan. But like I said, join me here. There's a link in the description of the video. It is worth way more than $10. I can tell you that. Oh, 650? You're not bad. There's some things that you can do with 650. If you're 650, we need you to get to, I would get you to 680, which wouldn't be hard at all. Investment properties become a lot easier for you to get when you're 680 and above. Part of developing a business mind is that you have to do business. There's a lot you can learn from other people, but until you're in the thick of it, you don't learn it. You have to apply it. Practical application becomes vital at that point. And you just don't throw it into any old business. All you good credit people, shit. Man, you at 740. You can do some things to increase your financial picture very easily. 670, you're there, almost there, but you can still do. There's some things. There are other things you can do to bump it up, and even at actually, as soon as you pass 620, you can sort of start doing a few things. But 680 is the better position if you want to get into real estate purchasing and building or construction. 680 is better. And so you don't take your credit score and buy a house. You buy investment houses, investment properties that then buys the house for you and continuously pay for the house. Okay, I'm getting off here for real. For real. All right. Yeah. You spend $10 to learn what you need to learn in order to make a hell of a lot more money. Hell, just what I told you tonight on how you can start flipping things that you can purchase and sell on Facebook Marketplace. I mean, how much did we just make on Facebook Marketplace? Well, that wasn't Facebook Marketplace, but it was similar to it. That was, you just made $100, right? Yeah, we just sold something and made $100. You know, you can take, if we were doing that program right now, we would take that $100 and move that to buy some other items that we can then sell and make more money. So it doesn't matter where you start, as long as you start. But y'all have a good night. Always remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibration. Simplify Drew. And I'm out. Because y'all trying to trick me.